Cash Crew, back for another episode. How you feel, Vlad?
I'm good. Welcome for another week's episode. This week we got a special guest with us all the way from Orlando, a Dallas Cowboys fan. I'm going to let him introduce himself.
Hello, everybody. Glad to be here. My name is Dan Mondesir. Been watching sports since I was 5 years old. I remember watching sports when my dad would let me sneak by the bed when I had school the next day just to watch the late games. So ever since 5 years old, I was watching sports.
Now, some bon papa. That's a good dad, man.
Facts.
Sure, that's something I'm probably going to do, to be honest. So, we got a lot of things to talk about. NBA headlines. You want to jump into that?
Absolutely. Let's cover what's been going around the league. We got a couple of headlines to cover. First one is, since we got a Bulls fan in the room also, I guess the question is, now that the Bulls did something in free agency, well, not free agency, trade deadline, they got Vucevic. So, Dan, Zach LaVine, you got 2 All-Stars on your team. Are you guys making the playoffs?
I believe so. I think the Bulls have a legitimate shot to make the playoffs.
I agree, by the way.
Gives them scoring, rebounding, things from that position they were lacking. I did like Wendell Carter Jr., but I just don't think he was right for that particular team. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I do believe that they're going to at least get in the playoffs. And I kind of see that team doing things in the future. They're still very young. And I think they can develop and do something pretty decent.
I think they have one of the most deadly pick and pop games now. With Vucevic and LaVine, they have a 30-foot pick and pop game now. Where else? Where else do we see that in the league? That's unique to them. So you got 2 All-Stars. You got a young guy in Levine, whatever you... Is it Levine?
Levine.
Okay. Mr. Zach, he's a bad man, and I think yes, they'll make the playoffs. Who knows how far they can go, but they're gonna be putting up some numbers. I like Kobe too. Kobe White is
a good player.
Push the pace a lot.
I like him coming off the bench. Right now, they started him earlier this year, but lately he's been coming off the bench. I don't know if they go back to him coming off the bench. But, actually starting, I'm sorry. I like him. I was a little bit on the fence, about him earlier in his career. Unfortunately, I thought he was going to be like a John Wall type of player with better shooting, obviously. But I kind of like what I see from him.
That's good. That's dope.
And for you, Mr. Miami Heat, you guys did a big splash during this trade deadline, getting
of course
your point guard or combo guard, Victor Oladipo. Mm-hmm. Now you guys are looking at Victor Oladipo, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, and Co. How far does Miami Heat go this year?
Heat in 5. No, I'm just kidding. Cocky Heat fan is back. We got Mr. Vic. I told you, if you listen to the podcast before, we talked about this. I said we're going to call them the Miami Yoruba Boys. You remember that? Nigeria, we are here. Giannis didn't want to come? That's okay. Oh. You don't want to come? That's fine. Perfectly fine. Y'all can laugh. It's fine. But finally we got someone for point of attack. It was supposed to be Avery Bradley. He couldn't stay healthy, and God bless him, but he's gone now. I do like Kelly Olynyk coming off the bench, so that kind of hurt a little bit. What's up?
I personally didn't understand the pickup with Avery Bradley.
Point of attack, man. We kept getting... It was Tyler Hero getting scorched every single night.
Well, I think Duncan Robinson is actually more of a liability on defense. You could actually say, I remember watching a game when C.J. McCollum was going off in the first quarter. And I said, Duncan Robinson could actually be an average defender. Mm-hmm. He'll be a better player. He doesn't need to be like a defensive stopper.
Right.
Just an average player. And I want to see more from him, as far as his development. But defensively is where he lacks. I do like the Oladipo pickup. I think it helps them in that position defensively. Unfortunately, in my opinion, a lot of people are looking at... I don't think he could return to those Indiana, playing days. Yeah. But I think he could do a lot for the Heat, especially defensively. He doesn't really have to do too much because I think that team is very deep, very scary team. I like their moves. I still want to see a lot from Kendrick Nunn, mostly in the playoffs, because he was hurt last year, and then he did come in stretches, and they were kind of protecting him. Yeah, and Goran was playing very well during the playoffs before he even got hurt. So
that's a key. With
the Heat, also, I'm kind of. I actually want to see what happens with that team, especially during the playoffs.
Yeah, I think they're dangerous, man. It's a 4-team race, I think, in the East. You got Milwaukee, you have Boston, you got Brooklyn.
Philly.
And Philly, yeah.
Oh, so, Philly. I like that team.
Yeah.
And then you got the dark horse, Atlanta Hawks.
Moshe.
Well, you know what? The Hawks, I actually like what the Hawks were doing. They got Nate McMillan. Collins has been playing well since under Nate. I think that team is on the rise. I don't want to, downplay the Hawks, but I think that team is also on the rise. They started slow this year, and I think they're starting to figure it out little by little. If anything, the Hawks too, that's a team that people could actually start looking at and say, hey, if you add maybe this guy or that guy, they could actually be a serious contender, especially in the East. So
Devin Booker, get out of Phoenix.
The move they made for Lou Will, that's, to me, it's really scoring punch off the bench. He doesn't help them defensively at all, and we know defense is where they need some help. When your best guy is a matador on defense, Ice Tray, for all he does on the offensive end, you can get what you want. He may drop 40 on you, but you can drop 40 on him just as easily, which makes it so exciting to watch. That's what, Atlanta Hawks basketball is so exciting because they don't play defense as well. But I think Nate McMillan can get them to play some defense here and there. So
they've been playing well. I know Cam Reddish is hurt. They got a few injuries on the squad.
That's Vlad's guy. And Ken's too.
They just got back DeAndre Hunter, and I was pretty interested in him. Early on, and I think I want to see them. I can't even pronounce his name all the way.
Bogdanovich.
But yeah, I think he's pretty good. I like him too. He's a good piece for them. He can shoot. He could play. I think he's very underrated. Ever since Sacramento, I thought he was pretty good. I think it's gonna take time, especially with chemistry. With him and Trey, because he had pretty good chemistry in Sacramento with Fox. He came off the bench, did his job. I like that team. I like that team. They're interesting. I like interesting teams.
Yeah.
Interesting teams kind of make noise, and you're like, I saw this happening. You kind of see something going with the Hawks, and I kind of like it.
Well, we need the Hawks to make noise. We need these teams in smaller markets. Although Atlanta's a big city, it's not. We talked about this coming back from Miami last weekend. Atlanta is a small city masquerading as a big city. It is. Compared to a Miami market, it's not the same. No, specifically, and you can tell, free agents don't want to come here. So it's. But everybody wants to go to Miami. Everyone wants to go to New York. Everyone wants to go here and there.
Even though they consider Atlanta like the Black Hollywood?
Yeah, because like I said, I'll give you a small example on the cityscape. Just looking at the city. Flying into Miami International was not the same as flying into Hartsfield. And I think people get what that mixed up. And I'll connect it with basketball in a second. But when you get here to Atlanta, you'll understand that Atlanta is busy, but it's not international. Okay? Busiest airport, not the biggest.
Okay.
Busiest. Okay. I went to Miami, it's super large compared to Atlanta. So translating that to basketball, it's kind of like that middle of the road type of deal. It's like, okay, you're on the way going to somewhere else, because that's what Atlanta was. Well, Atlanta is terminus, right? Let me ask you a
question. Do you feel like is it just because Miami is more of a tourist attraction, where
Absolutely.
Everybody, people from Miami don't hype up, South Beach, you understand, or those places. So do you feel like maybe just because it's a tourist attraction, like where everybody's like, yeah, we're gonna go from here to Miami, versus the people that live in Miami don't really look at Miami the way.
No, you take it for granted when you're down there. But yeah, that's absolutely right. And it's you got so many things going for you, income tax, all that stuff. So, and then of course Pat Riley, it's sexy, all those big round Cuban booties down there. I mean, it's Miami, so people want to be a part of that. So I don't see Atlanta being able to get guys like that unless they grow them here, and that's sweet. Actually, if you're a Hawks fan, it's sweet to be able to draft your own guys. I remember talking to Kens about this when we finally. I said we. I live here, so I guess I could say that. Mm-hmm. When Atlanta finally got someone of his caliber, I said, okay, they finally got one. The face. Now add on, right? Then they got Collins, and now they got other guys that they can trade for because they have the money to do so. So they're kind of middle of the road right now, but I don't think they can. They're not a second round team.
You know who the Hawks remind me of? Pre-Kevin Durant, Golden State.
Yes, I agree.
You're planting the seeds, and you're kind of watching them grow. Mm-hmm. And I like their moves. They're underrated moves.
Yeah.
The draft moves. I know they're adding pieces, like I mentioned before, Bogdanovich, whatever his name is. But it's an interesting team. I'm not going to even lie about it. Mm-hmm. It's an interesting team. I talked to, of course, Ken's about it, a few of friends. I'm like, Ken's. And I spoke to him. I said, that's an interesting team.
Facts.
Even during early in the season. They were struggling. Mm-hmm. And I said, I still think you guys are very interesting. I'm glad to see where they are right now.
You better be glad Atlanta's not.
I know as a Heat fan, though, I know that you want to see them lose based on positioning.
What? No, I mean, I'm not that kind of fan. I want to be people at their best. Okay. So I want the Hawks to be good because it's even more fun to stomp on them.
That fan. No.
Let's move on because we'll be talking about this forever, man. But
just know,
there's some other stuff that we can talk about.
Don't say I told y'all so. Get y'all season tickets now. I don't want to see y'all courtside with Quavo.
I would not be.
And 2 Chainz.
You don't got to worry about
winning championships in 5 years. Just saying.
One more thing I want to talk about in the NBA. I personally think that the MVP is Jokic's to lose now. LeBron is hurt. Embiid is hurt. It's a 2-man race. To me, it's Dame and Jokic.
I got Dame Dollar.
You got Dame Dollar. Okay.
Are you basing it based on play? Based on stats?
Well, number one, he leads his team in almost every statistical category. Right. Okay? They just picked up Aaron Gordon and JaVale McGee. We know how gifted of a passer Jokic is. And now he gets to throw lobs to Aaron Gordon and JaVale McGee.
You don't think James Harden's a threat?
Yeah, James Harden is in there as well. But I think it will hurt him because he's in the East. Versus Jokic, if they make a run and they get to number 1 seed in the West, how do you argue against? And he's playing out of his mind. Harden is too. Don't get me wrong, but because he's in the East, I think that will hurt him with some of the people that's voting in the MVP race. So, Vlad, I know you don't believe it, but who do you said you have Dame? Why?
Does that really need an explanation?
Yes, you need to explain why you think it's Dame over Jokic, because I'm not rocking with that.
Damian Lillard is probably the best point guard playing in the league right now.
Okay. Why is he better than Jokic, who's leading everything of his team?
That's fine. Right now, Dame Dollar is probably the most, outside of James Harden, the dangerous person on the court. Mm-hmm. Dame has multiple 50-point games this season. He's carrying this Portland team when CJ was out. And now that Melo's turning it up, CJ's back, Portland is a force to play with in the playoffs.
I also like the Norman Powell pickup.
And they got Norman Powell.
I think that's a very good pickup for them.
Yeah, he's been playing out of his mind.
He's a good young player. I think he fits that team schematically also.
I just think it's really interesting in the West that the Jazz, Suns, and Clippers are 1, 2, 3, and not one of their guys. I mean, if you really want to talk, because we know how the MVP race goes.
To me, the Utah Jazz is the 2014 Toronto Raptors.
Well, we talked about this.
I think Donovan Mitchell.
He doesn't like the Jazz at all.
I like Donovan Mitchell. I don't think that's fair, because I mean I think Toronto had DeRozan. DeRozan was, I mean, he's a decent player, but Donovan Mitchell has more of a up take to him. He's not DeRozan.
Thank you.
And I really believe, not saying because I still, got the Lakers coming out the West when healthy, but I like that team. I think that team is it's decent. I mean, does it look like the same team, technically, with Ingles and the other Bogdanovich and, Clarkson, Mike Conley? The team stays healthy. I think they're pretty good. And I hope it fuels them, because a lot of people don't feel that Utah's going to really do anything. I hope it fuels them to actually try to come out the West.
I just think, if we're going to say, because we know how the MVP race has been, we've seen and we felt like a lot of people have been robbed because of where their team was in the standings. This year, if Jokic wins and they're not top 3, you gotta really tell me what the MVP race is. I thought the MVP race was best player, best team, or record-wise. That's what they told me.
It's the best player on one of the top 3 teams in the league.
Okay,
the only exception that ever happened was 2 times: Russell Westbrook and I want to say MVP in the 80s. That's the only time that was the only exception.
This year should be another exception for Jokic. It has to. The impact that he has on his team, you have to make an exception this year.
But it'll only
especially if you got LeBron and Embiid hurt.
That's why it's a question mark, though, because if they're not hurt, then he's not in the conversation.
No. He's not in the conversation.
No, it'll be Embiid's trophy to take home.
Oh,
well, Embiid has been playing well. I'm not gonna go that far. But Embiid has been playing well.
But your best ability is your availability.
There you go.
And if you're not on the court, then I'm sorry.
And that's why
I'll give you an example. The Rookie of the Year race. We all knew LaMelo was going to run away with that. Once they put him in the starting lineup, and we said this before the season, he has star quality. He's played with grown men overseas. It wasn't going to faze him. He doesn't get, googly-eyed from NBA players.
I didn't think he was going to be that good this fast.
Well,
I knew he was going to be good.
We talked about it. We knew.
I knew he was going to be good.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't think he was going to be this good.
Yeah.
Like, I said he's going to be good. I don't care what anybody says, he's going to be good.
But he's not available now. And so now that he's not available, he can't be in the race. Anthony Edwards is going to take it running away.
Absolutely. And Anthony Edwards is balling and catching bodies.
What's up, Cash Crew? This episode was so ginormous that we had to cut it in half. So you just listened to part 1 with Dan Mondesir. We will be coming back with a part 2 at a later date. As always, don't forget to catch us on Clubhouse every Monday at 7 p.m. unless otherwise noted. And of course, if you need anything as far as getting into Clubhouse, we can do that for you. We have invites. And so just DM us on IG. That's at sports_cash_. So again, thank you for listening. We'll talk to you soon.